Born in the backwoods.
Born in the backwoods.
Raised by a bear.
Raised by a bear.
Got cast iron nuts.
Got cast iron nuts.
And 2 coats of hair.
And 2 coats of hair.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Yeah, it's a mean, mean prick.
Yeah, it's mean prick.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
Who don't take no shit.
I don't take no shit.
How's it going, man?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Welcome to the ODT Veteran Podcast. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so name is Isaac Furland. I'm in the security world. I work with a lot of veterans, come from a Marine Corps background, Marine Corps infantry to be specific. And I work with a majority of veterans who are employed or working with my organizations. And yeah, just a dude, man.
How long ago was it when you got out?
So I got out mid-2019. So I was in from 2015 to 2019. Saw deployments to the Arctic Circle and Norway, stuff in that area of the world. We were doing some stuff in Romania, Bulgaria around that time. There was some Ukrainians floating in and out of there doing stuff. And then second deployment was to the Mediterranean on a MEU. And so we were supporting Northern Africa, some stuff that happens there, and then doing some training operations more in that same region. So with like Greece and Spain and other countries there. And then we ended up actually over off the coast of Iran when some of that stuff was going down, 2018 timeframe.
Oh, nice.
So
with was that when Trump was president around that time?
Yeah. So
right before 2020.
Yeah, I was actually prepping for my first deployment. We were in the field in 29 Palms doing our workup when we found out that Trump won, which was just interesting for the dynamic of who's going to control your job. Yeah. And then, which is, funny election season this time around. It's always crazy how that all works out. But that was also when we found out, hey, you've been training in the desert. You're going to the Arctic Circle. That was...
Let's go to Fort Drum.
I was like,
where'd you guys go for the training prior to going there?
Yeah, so we actually were, we did some stuff in Virginia, like traditional pre-workup stuff. We actually did one boat operation. So we were out to sea for a few weeks. And then the main bulk of it was called ITX at 29 Palms. So it's integrated training exercise or combined arms exercise. They changed the name, but it's out in 29 Palms. It's a series of ranges, mount operations, and just working with integrated arms. So working with tanks, aircraft, adjacent units, just trying to prepare for deployment. So
dude, that's badass, man.
It's a good time.
Every Army training I've heard of that's preparing soldiers to be in snow or anything like that is usually they're going to like Fort Drum where they got like 6 foot, 8 foot snow drifts. Like we play around with the snow.
It's funny because we sent a few people to Bridgeport after that. So Bridgeport's like the Marine Corps cold weather training facility, and I believe that's Bridgeport, California. I think, and so they have that situation like snowbanks, doing all of that. But it was really funny, and we were super unprepared because we did all of that. No cold weather training, no cold weather gear. They gave us a series of hip pocket classes, basically, that was like, hey, all right, now show up. And then we were working with the British mountain warfare people in Norway. So we showed up, and they were like, all right, this gear all just came out of caves from the Cold War era. Make sure it fits, make sure it works, and then...
That's what they gave you?
Oh, yeah. We're talking skis off a bar wall. It was rough.
Dirty,
yeah.
Damn. At no point did I, other than Afghanistan, we had cold parts of Afghanistan in Kandahar, but it would freeze pipes, stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. But we had nice gear prior to going, and that's crazy that they would, especially if you're going to the Arctic Circle.
You would think, right? Yeah. The Brits were pretty unhappy with us. They were already kind of skeptical of our gear, not having any pre-training, and then the whole food situation, because you need more calories, obviously, in the cold. Yeah. So we had the cold weather MREs, but there was some tensions between eating enough at the chow hall and who was supplying the food, and them saying, well, the British can have 4 or 5 eggs, but all Americans only get 2 eggs. And so you're just like, well, you're asking me to go, out in the cold for the next 2 weeks. All right, well. So we did a full build-up from surviving, first off, because your biggest enemy in the cold is the cold.
Everyone's badass till it gets cold.
Oh man, having to spoon feed people to keep them just to eat is it's just crazy what happens spooning? In the cold. Yeah, well, that was obvious. I mean, come on. This sleeping bag can fit. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody socks down. All right. Now it was an interesting experience, and yeah, definitely a big learning experience. Great for leadership, because that adverse condition of learning not only how to handle yourself, but lead a team in that environment, I think is huge. And just surviving, man. Like that translates to everything else I did in my Marine Corps career. And still to this day, I think it's huge. So
nice. And did you do anything else to that caliber of craziness in the Marines?
Yeah, so we did that whole Arctic training package, and then we came back and immediately found out we were going to go to Romania, I think, or was Bulgaria, one of the two. We did both in a similar time frame.
Was it more sightseeing when you were out there, or was it more actually doing whatever job it is you're supposed to do out there?
Yeah, so actually, we were the first Marines to show up to Norway in about 20 years. So there was a big media play. Russia was at play in terms of the tensions, in terms of how that happened. So there's some famous pictures, if you go online, of Marines arriving to Norway. They actually chartered a larger plane for us rather than just flying in on a C-17 or something. Right. They had a commercial plane land on a runway, and right as we're about to come in, it's snowing, and the pilot says, "This plane is a little bit big for this runway, so everybody hold on." You should have told me that after we landed. So it was...
When you fly into a war zone, they have to do like a combat dive.
Yeah.
And I could be talking out of my ass, but from what I was told while I on deployment, the C-130s or whatever we were on are doing like this crazy dive before they go in, just in case somebody's trying to.
Yeah.
Like, they go dark, red lights on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole 9 yards, but man, that's nuts.
It
Especially
was
hearing it over the speaker before you do.
Oh yeah. No, I was like, dude, this guy could have waited to tell me that for sure.
Yeah,
but
right, just let it happen.
Yeah, we landed just fine, and then the airbase, or the it's a half commercial, half military airport. So we land, and they're like, hey, there's going to be tons of media. I don't know if there was any Russian outlets that were there, because there's certain treaties of what they are allowed to show up, look at, and see. But there was so many camera crews. It was on their news, our news, everywhere. And we were one company out of our battalion. One was in Afghanistan. One was in, I think, Italy or Spain or something. They split us all up. So there's only 300 of us coming in on this plane. So we had plenty of room, which was fantastic. Right. But then it was make sure everybody's make sure your cover's on correctly. Make sure your hands aren't in your pockets. Make sure this, I'm like, it is.
Don't make us look like idiots.
Yeah. And it was cold. And so there's a famous picture of, well, I guess famous in our world because of afterwards we got some, reprimands for this, but I think it was a platoon sergeant pulling a bag and has a bag on his head. Maybe he's a platoon commander, but his hat fell off because the beanie fell off. And so he's pulling it in. So nobody on a media outlet would care. But of course, right. Higher Marine Corps is like, where's that guy's beanie at? Like they're just kind of upset about it, but
that's the same energy as, why aren't these barracks clean?
Oh, I know.
And then you go in the barracks and it's like, dude, this was built in the 1950s, and you have these guys.
Yeah, no
That's
cleaning
the same
supplies.
energy.
Just good luck. Just like see what you can do with it. That's most of my Marine Corps career with funding and everything, how that goes. But yeah, so that was that whole first thing. So we went to Romania, Bulgaria, but we went from like, negative 30, 40 to like 110 in a matter of like 2 weeks. Right. And so that was a shock to the system. That was crazy. Different training that we did there with a bunch of different partner nations. I can't remember them all, but I know we worked with like Canada and Norway, obviously, Britain. We worked with the UK. We worked with a lot of different ones.
For America to invade Canada.
Yeah. They're way too nice, man. Have you worked with them?
No.
Oh my God.
I mainly got to work with the Afghan soldiers.
Okay, yeah.
Because we were training them on, to an extent, we were training them on the howitzers.
Oh, cool.
I think we gave them 777s, or I can't remember what we were giving them, but we were just giving them a crash course. And it's literally like training 8-year-olds, not because they're stupid, but because of the language
barrier. It's so difficult.
And Pashto is like, good luck trying to learn that if all you know is English.
It's
you can
crazy.
Say words here and there, but it's like
hand gestures go much further.
Seriously, and a lot of these guys don't even want to be there.
No,
like they're I don't know if they're being forced to be there, but like some of the guys would show up high, drunk, like whatever, and it was meh. No one cared. Dude,
same thing with like Ukrainian, or not Ukrainian. They actually were the one that wanted to be there, but Bulgarian, Romanian, you could tell it's a day job for them.
Right.
And so they have some college age, officer who's telling them what to do, and it's like middle-aged guys like, yeah, we'll get to training when we're ready. And
have you seen some of the videos of the Ukrainians now where like there's some like 50, 60-year-old guys that are Ukrainian soldiers that are a part of the fighting force.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus, man, like, you guys can do better than this. This is crazy. How are...
Yeah.
I feel like Russia's just not to like get on a big,
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
yeah, dude, it's such a big rabbit hole. Cause
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think
after being out there working with the Ukrainians.
Yeah, so my first interaction was they definitely had a sense of pride for their country. The first ranges that we ran, you could tell they had some NATO equipment, so they had flak, Kevlar, they had, relatively basic stuff, shooting AKs, presumably Russian AKs. And initially they were not that good. I've heard from other people who did some training later, because this would have been 2017, 16 timeframe. We're running ranges with them. We're, RSOing and stuff and trying to get pointers on just different type of more combat style shooting. And at that point they were pretty far off the mark, but they were motivated. And I think that was post Crimea initially with some of that situation. So they definitely they were patriotic towards their country, which I think which was interesting. It was cool to see that. And the fact they wanted to learn and they really were trying to listen to all the English they could, trying to take in pointers, trying to understand how this whole thing works from our perspective.
Right.
And contrast directly with the Bulgarians or Romanians in the area. They were ahead of completely different levels. And then that whole situation right now is unfortunate, first and foremost. Like, I think trying to just be as diplomatic as possible across countries just benefits the world in general.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen firsthand just being in the military, like, war is not something one should wish for.
Dude, and you hear some of these politicians talk about it, it's like, what are you...
Yeah.
Not to, like, beat a dead horse, especially... Election day.
I know. Yeah.
By the way, this is election day that we're doing all this. So in case something crazy happens outside, we see a big mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. We're November 5th. But like just hearing some politicians talk about Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Gaza, like it's no big deal. I mean, yeah, of course we need to funnel billions of dollars worth of weapons and billions of dollars just in general to these guys. It's like I definitely think that it could be solved. There could be talks of peace. There could be something done to end it all now where, not everybody's going to like the end result, but it's a result that ends killing.
Right.
Needless killing.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, dude, watching drones, because there's footage. There's
so much footage of this whole interaction.
Running grenades into people and mortar, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just like, it's crazy to watch because like you see these guys begging and they don't want to be there obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like these are the regular infantrymen.
Yeah.
These are the guys that are on that front line.
Yeah.
And you're like, just thinking of my time in service, at no point was I sitting there going, you know what I really want to do? I want to go to war.
Yeah.
That just sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Like all I'm thinking of, I can't wait to get home. The only reason I got this job or did this was because I do want to serve my country. I joined when I was young, 17. Like,
Same.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Even better. So you get it. You want to, it's that, I want to be G.I. Joe. Like,
yeah, there's
a
calling.
badass, but like at the same time, if it's just pointless and over oil or politics or whatever, it's like, you're letting these lower income people that like we're not rich. I didn't grow up with a golden spoon in my mouth. Like
yeah,
and I bet if I did, my parents would be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
and even then, my mom was like, "Don't join the army."
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm proud of you, but like, obviously, she wouldn't want something to happen to me. And watching my 15-year-old now, I'm just like.
You're like, watch your decisions.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to join the army. I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, at least if he's a pilot, like, there's less of a chance. And I've been able to talk him into going as an officer, which, man, I can't count the hours I've wasted just standing in a locker room, sweeping sand or fucking mopping
in the rain.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's at least it gets rid of most of the BS that comes with being in the military, but man, it's just scary thinking that in a couple years he could be drafted if something
happens.
People getting into power and change the law, they're trying to pass bills making it to where women have to sign up for selective service, which would make them they don't have to do it yet, but it would make it to where they could be drafted if that came about. And I'm telling you right now, if we let Russia and Ukraine continue, and Israel and Iran basically continue what they're doing, like it's going to get crazy. And I don't think these politicians realize it because they're just thinking, well, I don't have to go. I don't have to go over there. So it's...
Yeah, you would hope that there's some discernment on those making decisions in terms of what the reality is of their decisions and taking that into consideration. But I mean, I'm curious too, from your perspective, what, are you at this point, having served, seeing your son now at this transitional phase, are you grateful for what you did, and do you think it would benefit him in the same way?
Yes, it definitely helped me grow into the person I am now. I wish I could go back with what I have. Like, I'm glad I married my wife. I'm glad my first wife, and I'm glad I have my kids. I would never take that back in any way.
Yeah.
Now, if I could go back in time and join them, because I got married at 16, like a genius.
Yeah.
And got emancipated and joined the military at 17. So I made a lot of dumb decisions really early.
Yeah.
Right out the gate, because I'm surrounded by these adults that have no idea what they're doing, and I think I can do a better job than they are. So I was like, screw you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But from where I was when I was 16 to where I am now, I wish I could have gone back with my wife now, still same kids and stuff, but with my wife now, then, because she has so much more drive than I do, and a lot more drive than my ex. Not to like dig on her, but I feel like I could have exceeded more in my time in the military. I definitely think I could have really risen up in the ranks and done more, because I would have had the drive I have now with her, with my wife now, is amazing. That's the only reason I'm doing this stuff, is because the opportunities that have popped up in my life have made it to where I'm the type of person I am now. 10 years ago, I was a total POS. Like there was a lot of dumb stuff I was doing that if I was talking to me now, I'd be like, dude, what
are you thinking?
Get your shit together.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the person you want to be. This isn't the person you want your kids to see you be. So my time in the military definitely helped me grow into a man like that.
Yeah.
But even then, I was just a man that was still doing dumb shit.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no lack of dumb stuff, especially when you get in that young.
Oh, yeah. I think it would definitely push him in the right direction faster to grow and mature if and when he does join the military.
Make that decision. Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I think I joined for some of the similar purposes. I wanted to have service to country. I felt it was one of the best places to learn leadership at a very hands-on young age. So I knew that if I didn't stay in for 20 years, that coming out, I'd probably be better off in terms of as a human, as a man, as an individual, and having just real world leadership experience. Where else do you at 17, 18 years old get put in charge of a team with a gun, and now you're coordinating assets, working with just making things happen. And so I think that was huge. I'm extremely grateful for that. And looking back on it now, I would have never got into what I'm doing now. I would have never had the same connections, the same people to get me to where I am now. And yeah, I got to say I'm extremely grateful for that. And we'll see what he's a little young now. So we'll see, what happens as he gets older to where, what his decision making is. But it's one of those things that's, I don't think that there's a right answer, but I'm grateful for my experience for sure in doing that. So
it makes such a difference. And like, you can tell the difference between somebody that has had grown men stand around him screaming in his ear, yelling and pushing him and doing whatever, compared to somebody that's never had that happen. And
man,
you always get that, man, if a drill sergeant never did that to me, guys. So.
Well, yeah, good luck, man. You're probably right.
Yeah. How was the transition getting out? And did they help prepare you with your transition getting out? Because I know when I got out in 2014 towards the end, and there were classes and you know, the BS stuff that they make you do before you get out. That in the moment you're thinking is, man, this is just a waste of time. Just let me go.
Yeah.
You know, but now it's like, oh man, I wish I had really paid attention a little bit more. And I know they've gotten a lot better now. So how was that, and did they prepare you?
Yeah, I would say it's so difficult for any large government organization to put something together that can be a, you know, one size fits all for everybody getting out, because you have different backgrounds, education levels, aspirations, you know, reasons people are getting out. And so that being said, I'm glad they put something in place. I think that they made it unnecessarily hard in terms of when you turn in your gear, when you're preparing, how long should you be preparing? Hey, we just got back from second deployment. There's not much that you can really do at this time. You should be using this to prepare, and how can we support you there? I think they could have done a better job there.
You didn't like CIF?
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, SIF is. We could tell stories on SIF. Yeah. Oh man.
Dude, so there's one skit they made where it's that hot chick, and she's got like they make her have a beer gut, and she's a CIF lady
throwing gear on the table.
Yeah, and she like looks at it, smells it, licks it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
to it, throws it. And
they
then
reject everything.
Yeah, well, they reject it like a couple times, and then he comes back. It's clean, everything he needed to get done that she said, and she goes, "All right." Puts it up on a pile, and then she's like, "Okay, let me see your orders." Oh, looks like you need a rucksack.
Here's a bag.
Just grabs the same one.
Yeah,
and looks him deadpan in the eyes.
Yeah, it's that whole thing is unbelievable how they expect you, especially for like infantry individuals coming in with gear that they've actually used, and they're like, "Why'd you use this?" I'm like, "What do you mean?
This red stuff?"
Yeah, why is this soaked sweat stained ring that you can't get out and you've tried to wash 10 times? It's like, we actually use these for the past 4 years. Imagine that. Like, so I think that was definitely an unnecessary experience. But yeah, past that, getting out, I think you really can't prepare fully. I think how the Marine Corps prepared me for life the best was giving me principles to handle stress and be able to do my best with those. Now, it's not perfect, and I think that it was definitely not an easy transition, because everybody thinks it's going to be this, you know, this magic grass is greener on the other side situation. Right. And so it was definitely trying to find my footing, find my feet, do what I can, just persevere to get to at least the next door, open the next door. Okay, what's on the other side of that? How can we keep moving? And so, I mean, I think getting into some of the VA stuff, even like first getting out and feeling like, okay, well, my experience was less than others. So like, that's not an option. I don't want to look for help. I just want to do what I can.
Right.
And then the obvious massive thing, you know, just over a year after getting out, or less than a year after getting out, was COVID. And
so, man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I was,
Jesus.
Just gotten out. I spent a few months just trying to transition, going to people's weddings that were getting out and traveling around, visiting friends and family that I hadn't done. The taste of freedom is amazing. And then, you know, reality is creeping in. And so you're starting to make decisions. And I've always had a passion for business as well. And so that will tie us into more of the stuff I'm doing now. But COVID was starting. I just met my now wife. And so I was going through, you know, just, okay, first stages of just meeting somebody. She lives on the East Coast. I'm now in the Midwest, and navigating relationships, trying to have a job, trying to make this work. And so out of necessity, I'm like, well, what am I good at and what do I know how to do? Well, I mean, I could go the security route, but I don't have any connections necessarily at this point. And so I'm like, I'll start a lawn care company, because I did that in high school, and
nice.
I know how that works. And so started, built, ran, and then sold a small lawn care company to just survive through the COVID time
How did
frame.
you say? So I've heard people do that where they're not the
no,
go off
we
on
can
a
go wherever.
tangent, but
Yeah.
I've heard of people doing that where they build up a company and then they just sell it. Is there a process that you go to find people to sell it to, or did they come to you?
Yeah, so it wasn't that big of an acquisition, nothing crazy. It was really, I'd built up a pretty good account pool that I was managing, and then for life reasons, my wife was finishing a master's degree and then moving out here to want to do a PhD, and so we decided, hey, let's make that transition. And so I was going to have to transition career altogether.
Right.
But I'd met in a few other local companies that were in the area. And so I found a kid who was actually college age, who had a pretty good account pool, and he was looking for more accounts. And so was able to just transition so it wasn't like a traditional sale where it's like, here's a valuation of my organization, here's the multiple on it, and sell it. I know a lot of people have done that, and I have some information on that side of things, like knowing how that works, but it was more of just like handshake type. Let's just transition these accounts correctly, pay for the ones that make sense, and that works. And then I had another friend who owned a part-time organization doing lawn care maintenance stuff as well, and so the other accounts kind of fell to him. So it wasn't a big sale and acquisition, but
I made $1 million.
Right, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I know,
I'd be back in lawn care today. So
dude, I've heard so many different people talking about lawn care and stuff like that. Getting jobs with these big gated communities, like making good
especially
money
down south. It's
dude,
it's two commercial accounts. There you go.
But it's actual labor work. Like actually, I mean, compared to the security world, depending on what kind of contracts you get, like it really varies. My favorite are the surveillance jobs where I'm just sitting in my car with my nice heated seat.
Yep, enjoying it.
I'm set up my camera. I'm good to go.
Yep.
So yeah, after you sold that, is that when you got into security? Or?
Yeah. So from that point, I actually moved to the East Coast. So my wife was at the tail end of the master's program. We were preparing to move out here, and so I actually found just a local, post watching type of security role, and then quickly got promoted to managing, helping with critical infrastructure and location. So
was it like Allied kind of stuff?
It was, who was it? It was Securitas. I think maybe I did an Allied one as well. So yeah, it was critical infrastructure for like medical facilities. So I was like just doing their, at that point, actually, when I first moved out there, I was just trying to like make ends meet. So I was working like 2 different security jobs, working also a like hardware store job or something. It was just let's just make this work. And so it's like wake up at 4, be at the store at 5:30, and then finish at 3, go to a 16-hour shift through the night, and then try and also do school courses. So I enrolled in college at that point too. So I was trying to get what can I do to just get
make
better
money
and make money, especially during COVID too, because it was just such a wild time with everything. I actually was living in a camper. We're outside of New York City, and so we found a farmer who allowed us to park a camper on his property. And so, it was me and my wife and our dog, and we were living in a 24-foot camper for 9 months or a year, whatever it shook down to be. And it was a cool experience. Another one of those, like, grateful for it.
Before kids.
And
that's the big caveat.
Oh, man.
Little asterisks you got to put in there.
It can't be a different story.
Kids.
Yeah, yeah, dude, absolutely. And so, yeah, that was kind of my first foray into the security world, which was just like, oh, great, I don't want to do this forever. Which, no disrespect, there's some dudes who are working some of those sites around the New York City area that have been doing it for 20 years, and they were pretty solid dudes. They had been, they show up, rain, snow, sleet, whatever, and they just do their thing, which was awesome to see. But also for me, getting introduced to the inner workings of the corporate security world in terms of how they manage contracts. What do these look like? How do we interact with access control and different softwares? How they use Linnell, how they use monitoring of critical infrastructure in the building, so fire systems, stuff like that. That was all super good informationally, I think, for me.
Oh yeah.
And so then.
And you can tell the difference between somebody like whenever you're meeting directors of operations for certain companies or certain parts of that company, somebody that has experience in all of those things, like just hearing you talk about it now, it sounds like you actually know what you're talking about. I have met so many people when I'm getting subcontracted for something or I'm going on a specific contract that have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. And they look at you and go, oh, that's a good idea. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like, I could take your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, you're not a jerk. But
it's
that, God.
Yeah, there's definitely certain nuances that are good to have, and there's also people that you meet who are actively seeking information. They're trying to learn and grow, and if they don't know something, they will know it after it's brought to their attention.
They'll go out of their way to try and get it.
Right, and then there's some who try and just let you know that, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then they just put it under the rug because it doesn't make sense. And so that has been a funny experience too. But that was my first jump into the security world. Then we moved out here, and I got involved with a company that was pretty fast growing. Invicta was the name of the company out of Denver.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. So I came out here, and again, similar thing. I interviewed for just a regular arm position to do like cannabis facility security or something. And then in the interview, they're like, well, we looked at your resume. We've had, we think this interview went well. Would you like to be on the management team of helping run these accounts and then fill in where you need it? I'm like, absolutely. And so, yeah, it was really funny. I mean, just the security world in general with call outs, scheduling. I only spent 1 day a week in the office, and the rest I'm on post, right? So it still worked out that way. But again, same thing with learning. I got to see how the cannabis industry works, how the CCH, which is the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, how they run security on those sites, which are their higher risk sites for stuff like that.
The hotels that they fill with homeless people.
Exactly. And this was still at the tail end of when COVID, was still had some
Were you in
parameters.
Denver during some of that?
So
I probably met, dude.
Yeah,
I feel like I've seen you before.
You might have.
Dude, we got subcontracted for one of those hotels for a good little bit because the city was using taxpayer dollars to put homeless people in the hotels because COVID's going to get everybody, except for the homeless, because they're not dying of COVID, they're dying of drugs and all the other dumb shit.
Yeah, it was, dude, that was crazy because my first interaction, I was helping with a lot of the cannabis sites, and they're like, hey, I think we're going to have you transition to some of the CCH sites, show up to this location. There's 2 dudes who have to be on this post at all times. I walk in, and there's one guy, and he's like, oh, have you worked any of CCH before? I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, you sure? They didn't say anything? And I'm like, no, what's up? He's like, well, let me give you the rundown. I got to get out of here, but there should be 2 people. This guy has a knife who just went in here. We've already had 2 calls with PD and EMTs coming to the place, and good luck. And so he left. I came in. Within the first 20 minutes, I had somebody come down telling me so-and-so's got a knife. Somebody went to somebody else's room. There's somebody else who shouldn't be here. And then there was a fight that broke out. And so now I'm trying to maintain the front desk, regular access control for the place. And then I'm in a tussle with these people trying to get the law enforcement to come in, and they finally, diffuse the situation, and then everything goes back to normal. That's if they show up. Yeah, that was crazy. So that was my first interaction. And then while I was there, they actually opened up an executive protection arm of the company. So they wanted to start doing executive protection. I had an awesome mentor who I work with now. He's one of the other founders of 4 Rings Tactical. 4 Rings Tactical is based out of Denver. Check him out. Check us out online. But he did EP in California for a long time, 20 plus years. Has done a lot of other type of work too. But he was helping found this organization for the company to work out an EP situation. So they ran an 8-week course where we had all these different types of assignments, physical combatives, how to bus clients, how to drive clients. There's a whole suite of things that we went through.
Did they run like a school or something, or was it just training for?
It was internal.
In-house?
So they built this internal training program to facilitate building out at least a 6 to 8 person team to facilitate stuff with the intent of more courses to follow. And then Invicta, they had their own, the way they were trying to do it, they had a lot of good connections with other companies. I think they've since sold to another company, so there's other stuff going on there. But I don't know if the intention was to release that EP course further, because I know there's some good stuff in releasing courses like that. But when I was there, it was mainly built to just facilitate the company. But that being said, was a great course. I thought it did great. And towards the end of that course, actually, is when I actually got into real EP work, because unfortunately I did have a friend whose brother was Air Force, committed suicide. And so it was a really, really unfortunate situation. And my wife,
but one that happens daily.
Yeah, it's way
stupid amount,
way too common to have that happen. And that's just something that we see way too much. And that led me to go to the East Coast just to support my buddy and make sure he was all right. Having that situation happen, but during that time, I made a connection that was basically, hey, I work for these different clients. We're looking for people. Would you be interested? My buddy at the time, who works with me now, was also there. He came from presidential background, so Presidential Marine Corps security, so Camp David type stuff.
Nice.
And so that was just a little conversation we had. I come back to Colorado. I thought nothing of that interaction other than that would be cool. That sounds like
It'd
a really
be cool
cool
if
world.
He hits me back up.
Right, exactly. And you never know. And so a couple weeks later, sure enough, I was in Denver. I had somebody call out at a Longmont site, and so I had to go up to Longmont to fill in for somebody and get a phone call from my buddy who I was out on the East Coast with. And he said, hey man, just got a phone call. They're sending over NDAs. I'm getting read in. This is awesome. Hopefully he calls you soon. And then I'm like, dude, I'm so happy for you. Like, this is awesome. Like, at a minimum, he's going to get to go do something that is just cool and unique, and something that we aspire to do, something that's, got some meaning and purpose to it, right?
Anytime you get a big name client, and like, even if it's just for a day or two, it's like, hey man, I still got CNN or you know what
yeah,
I mean?
you got to just rub shoulders in cool places, kind of thing.
And see crazy shit.
Yeah, especially
around 2020, dude.
Yeah.
Like the protests that were.
Yeah, right.
That's all we were doing in 2019, 2020, and maybe a little bit of 18.
Yeah.
But like it was nuts around that time.
It was unbelievable. And so I am now thinking, as I'm sitting here on this post, that I'm not going to get the call because my background isn't the same as his. So I'd served with him. He came from presidential security to the regular fleet Marine Corps to 1-2 was where we were at. And so I'm thinking, man, I don't have the background. He's not going to call me. And so he calls me back and says, hey, I just got read in. It's awesome. I hope you get the call. I'm like, dude, again, if I can support you anyway, let me know. I'm super happy for you, but I just don't know if this is going to work out. I don't know if I'm going to get the call. And so 30 minutes later, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, can you drive out to the East Coast, or fly or drive, whatever it was at the time, by like in two or 3 days, like some, super quick. I'm like, absolutely. He's like, cool. I'm going to email you the NDA. I'm going to email you the contracts and stuff. We'll get this thing going. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So then that led me to transition out of the work in Colorado. And then I was traveling there for a couple of years, pretty much just doing stuff all over the country. EP work specifically.
Nice.
And, security contracting.
Any of it, or is it still under like an NDA kind of thing?
Most of it's under NDA. Gotcha. But I can say I got to work with all different types of clients, all different types of backgrounds, entrepreneurs, lawyers, political spectrum, celebrities, like the whole spectrum, which was really cool because the different firms that we got to work with just had connections across a lot of things. And so it was awesome, but it was also, when we first showed up, just like, okay, now we're here. And we realized this team that we've built is people that we all know or mutually know. And so we needed to build some type of company or entity to help manage what we have going. And so me having a passion for business, I'm like, well, I guess I can try and form something here to help this just flow.
Do it for money.
Yeah, right, for some money. And so, which I knew nothing about at the time in terms of how any of that worked. So I did my best to just learn as much as I could, as fast as I could.
Was it the staffing side of it that was a pain in the ass, or was it
everything.
Putting together contracts?
Everything. Contracts,
advanced work,
licensure,
like
advanced work, coordination.
Dude, the licensing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest pain in the ass. And I've been a part of groups that are meh about licensing. Like, I think there might be, like, I don't know, let's go.
Yeah, and it also depends what type of work you're doing too, right?
Yes.
Surveillance versus consulting versus actual armed protection versus advisement. There's such a pool of different tasks.
Denver specifically, I don't know if you remember all the stuff going on down in Denver with licensing, and ever since 2020, I want to say 2020, you had to go through testing and everything to become a private investigator in the state of Colorado.
They removed that, didn't they?
They removed it, and now all you have to say is, I'm a private investigator, and you're a private investigator.
Right.
And the rules for things like licensing to work security in Denver compared to all these other different cities in Colorado. Some of the other cities up in northern Colorado, they don't really care. There's not that many. There's licensing. You need a security license to work in certain areas. But in Denver specifically, they had nothing put together for executive protection work. So it was, when you're working with a company like Pinkerton, most large companies like Pinkerton, G4S, Securitas, all that, they subcontract. They're not like, they'll send their one guy out to like run everything or manage it. But even then, that guy might not know what he's doing. So they'll put one of the subcontracted security guys in charge of it. And, I've had so many instances like that where I'm having to staff jobs where I'm the only guy that has any idea what's going on on the job. And the people that are supposed to be in charge are just lost. Yeah. And they have no idea about licensing. So if something happens, you need to be able to protect yourself insurance-wise. Like, if you're working security, no matter what state you're working in, you should have security, because if something happens, the chances of the security company leaving you high and dry are very likely. Yeah. And you'll be sitting in jail going, waiting on your court date to say why you're innocent. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and it's Denver specifically, like Colorado's a unique state specifically with how licensing and all that works. But getting into the space, though, all of that was a concern, right? Like learning everything from staffing, training, even developing my own skill set, because now we're operating at a level where
close protection for some gigs, some not, but definitely like the full suite of everything that you need to know, and you need to know it now. And so that was the big thing of, all right, who knows what they're talking about for each one of these things? I just come from an executive protection course, which is the same thing as coming out of like a Marine Corps schoolhouse.
Oh, you went to a course then?
Well, it was the internal one that they built.
Gotcha.
So like that was the extent of my current knowledge outside of just military background stuff, which some things do fit, but there's a lot of things that are more nuanced and specific, like advancing correctly, how to correctly write reports, interface with clients, the soft skills required to even dress appropriately for where you're going, when to talk, when not to talk, when, all these things. And so
the business side of it, working with high profile clients that they are not here to listen to your bullshit. You're like, okay, that's cool that this thing happened and you want to tell me your story. Like, that's fine, but you are here to be a fly on the wall.
Right.
Like, and protect me.
Oh, yeah. No, that was crazy. And I feel very fortunate for the dudes that I got to work with, like just some of the right people at the right place, the right time, in terms of everybody had a little bit of a different background that we could all cross train on and then immediately go practice it. And that was amazing in terms of building my own skill set, but working with others who also had that same hunger and drive to want to build that skill set themselves. And so we were able to share information and everybody was able to grow. And that set me up for the next thing really well for just, everything to come. But yeah, it was kind of a lot at once at the beginning there for sure.
I can only imagine, dude. It's crazy because I found in the security world, you will meet, I'd say like 60% of the people are not fakes, but like they will pretend. A lot of people like lying and pretending that they know what they're talking about when they have no clue. Yeah. And I'm a pretty open book. Like if I don't know something, I'll tell you I don't know something. I'll we were saying a second ago, like I'll get the answer. I'll do everything I can to get the right answer, but I'm not going to tell you I know how to change out a clutch if I don't know how to change out a clutch, just as an example. But like that's all you run into in the security world, because it's all you have to do is be able to own a firearm and pass a background check and just to get a job. Like if you're trying to, it's so hard to staff stuff these days. Oh my God, yeah. Because any of the good people that actually know what they're doing and know what they're talking about already have their own companies. So now you're trying to pick from the people that aren't at that level of professionalism, not to like dig on them, but like I'll go to contracts, for example, the protests that were down for the what was that one chick in Kentucky, I think, Breonna Taylor. We were down there for the protests there with it was MSNBC or CNN, and we show up, and two of the people that were a part of the other team are in like one's in overalls and Carhartt hoodie, and you know what I mean. And I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, dude, this is not professional in any like, unless we needed a plumber, like. Like we need you to look professional and handle yourself professionally with a client, and like that has happened on so many different jobs, especially when you have large companies subcontracting. They'll call all these other companies and try and pick teams out of it. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm working on now. So with the EP source, one of the biggest things that I want to just get out is information for the protector and the principal. So those looking to get into it and what the standard should be, and then also information for those looking to hire, looking to subcontract, like what should they be looking for and what the standard needs to be for a certain type of individual to hire executive protection, to hire a full-time detail team, even resources within the space. Because you see that a lot where they'll call up a local company, they'll subcontract it to somebody else, and then they show up and you have no idea what the quality of work is. And unfortunately for the principal who could be paying or who is paying a lot of money for this, it's a facade in terms of what they're actually getting and what is actually, the type of support they're getting. So I think that's huge. What is, if you had to pick one of the jobs that you can, or contracts you can talk about that were the most fun? Or the most meaningful and like has stuck in your head kind of thing? Yeah, it's a good question. To give you an example, the Dakota Access Pipeline protest I was telling you about. Yeah, getting to go up there with the news agencies up there. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, dude, and we went up there like 3-4 different times over a 4-5 month period. Yeah. So, and it was, I want to say it was 2019 to, What? Yeah, it was
that
right
time
when
frame.
Trump got elected,
Mhm.
because you could see when it got confirmed that he got elected, because
It was
everybody,
just changed.
oh, dude, they were like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, they're kicking us out
Yeah.
for sure now.
Oh, I'm sure that had to be absolutely wild to be there and see that.
Dude, it
Yeah.
was awesome.
I would,
But as an example,
yeah, that's a great example. I would say one of the cooler contracts that I got to work actually was like a storm response for after a hurricane in Florida, and so we went down.
I was there.
You were there,
Dude, go on. I'll shut up.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited to be
So-
like, were we near?
Yeah. So I was here. Just had come off another contract, was working some local stuff, and this storm was rolling in. And so I talked with another buddy and was like, hey, if this happens, let's go down there. I have family down there. We can at least make sure they're cool, and we'll like look for contracts, see if our connections, we can work anything. And I have a buddy who owns a company in South Florida as well, so maybe they're going to be getting work. And so I fly down, meet up with him in Texas, and we just drive all the way down there, pick up our other buddy at another airport as like right after the storm has rolled through. So we don't even know like the battle damage assessment, right? Like what has happened in the area. And so we get down there without a contract in hand with just a few leads. And we first did like a DHS contract for FEMA sites. So we were just helping, with facilitation of people coming in and out and getting supplies. That one quickly was not the best option. So we ended up at a hospital. So critical infrastructure, emergency response, so like ERT type thing. But that was really cool, and this is why I think this is one of the cooler experiences. Is we were there. I got to work with with a Coast Guard guy. Never had worked with anybody in the Coast Guard. This Coastie dude was awesome. He was actually really well put together, was really good at his job and at this specifically. But they had internal security, so it was more emergency response. We did have some people who showed up very upset about not being able to access the people, and so we did have some situations, but in the corner of the parking lot was this entity I'd never heard of. And I was like, who are these guys? So I'm like walking the perimeter, just walking around, like just checking stuff out. And I run into this guy. I'm like, you guys look pretty high speed. Like, where are you guys from?
Nosy.
Yeah. And so turns out BORTAC is Border Patrol Special Operations. And so they were there because the border is now unsecure with the storm completely destroyed this. And so there was drug trafficking, human trafficking. Everything is coming through this now open area where some people are either looting and rioting and then they leave, or they bring things that shouldn't be in here. And so these guys are doing freaking night raids to just basically keep the coast secure, keep everything.
That's badass.
Oh, so it was just it was one of the coolest situations, just getting to talk with them and hear about their experience, and even understand they go overseas too, because they work with drug related stuff as well, that as it relates to the border. And so they have a pretty wide scope of what they can do, but getting to work, not next to those guys, but in adjacent, like in talking distance to them, was really cool to see that. And then we ended up doing, after that contract, which lasted maybe a couple weeks, we ended up doing residential, high profile residential apartment buildings, like high rise luxury condos. And so that was crazy too, because you'd walk in and you'd see a Rolls Royce destroyed, a Ferrari that all the storm just mangled these cars, and these people don't care. They're not even here. And so we were
insurance would pay for it,
basically. And so we had to escort contractors and different people in and out of all these different apartments, which look like somebody just up and left. And so there's Rolexes, there's handbags that are super nice, all this in these facilities. And so we were like making sure people didn't come in and steal and loot and do whatever there. And then also helping with some of the people, they're flying drones around doing the assessment of everything. And so that whole experience was pretty cool. It was a lot different than my current line of work and a lot of the other stuff I'd done, which was more principle based and a lot more EP stuff. Whereas I just thought that was such a unique experience that it was just, to see that was cool. So yeah.
What I don't know if you can say that, and I'll cut it out if you can.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the company you were subcontracting for?
So first was DHS, then was Veteran Security Corps, and then I think it was Redcon.
I feel like I've heard Redcon before.
They're out of Maryland, I think.
Yeah, they're
Virginia, maybe.
Yeah. During that's actually how I met my wife. Was during the hurricanes. She works with a large bank. I think I've said it on here before. She works with Unknown.
Oh, cool.
And does disaster relief stuff. And that's how I met her.
Nice.
Was through that. Pinkerton had gotten the contract.
Yeah.
And we got hit up because all we were doing down here was contracts for Pinkerton and other companies, but specifically with Pinkerton and this disaster relief, they needed people on the bus with them that you ever seen those election buses?
Mm-hmm.
They have offices in there and everything. So they would rent those out, and they actually had one. They called it an MRU, mobile response unit,
Mm-hmm.
and they would go to banks and kind of help cut out that middleman. Where let's say your house got destroyed by the hurricane, they would come in, and usually you have to call this person that calls this person that calls this person. These guys are here to go, okay, I can sign off on this, I can stamp that, I can do this, you're covered under all these, boom, you're good to go.
Well, it's
Here's
pretty
your check.
fast response type of thing, yeah.
Way faster, makes it a lot more streamlined.
That's cool.
It was, but just like with what you were saying, some people don't like the answers that they're going to get. You know, you got this old couple that's been paying their insurance, and this is like just a dirty thing insurance companies do and banks do as well. And not to like say that Go does that, but some people would get the news that, hey, so you're covered under flood insurance, but you're not covered under wind damage. So unfortunately,
yeah, right.
And it's like, this is going to cost these people like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And so now you need somebody there who can say, all right, let's just keep everybody safe. Yeah.
You know, and it's usually old people down in Florida.
Yeah.
So that was most of the clients that would come in to try and get all that paperwork and stuff done. So it just sucked having to see like these people just sobbing and crying because they've lost everything and they're going to end up getting screwed. So we were there as security just in case somebody left and came back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that it was nuts. That's how I met her.
That's cool though.
And I know, right? Love story.
Yeah.
I was basically Kevin Costner. And
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
a white Whitney Houston, so but taller. She's like 6'1". So.
Oh wow, that's nice. Some basketball player kids.
I know, right? Dude, our 2-year-old is over 3 feet.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah, he just turned 2 Saturday.
He's an absolute unit.
Dude,
Yeah.
his grandpa's 6'8" and his cousin is 6'9".
Oh wow.
Dude, and I'm 6'2". My middle brother is 6'3", and my little brother is 6'1" and a half. Sorry, 6'1" and a half.
Yeah. Make sure he gets that.
We measured it because he was talking shit, saying he was taller than me.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get the measuring tape.
Pull it out. Yeah. Oh man.
So, but that's how we met, and we had to get other security companies to help us as well because we were the security consultants. Like we were saying, like it's all about names and what you categorize your title as, especially legally. You know, because you're not going to go down there as security in certain situations. Just so everybody else knows, if you're a security guard, you're giving access to a facility, whether you're working at entrance or exit, and you're allowing people to come back and forth. You could be there for surveillance where you're not, you could be considered a private investigator for whatever job, or a security consultant where I'm here if something does happen to tell you how you should go about it. But in all actuality, if something happens, I'm going to handle that situation more as what I would do as a civilian. Like I wouldn't let, it's more for the holy crap DEFCON 10 kind of situation. Some dude shows up with a pew or something. That's more what we're there for in a security consultant atmosphere. But down there, it really varied. And I met so many different security companies down there and so many different people I have on my WhatsApp of like conversations. We were in Panama City. I'm trying to think. We were up in North Carolina, South Carolina. We were all up the East Coast, and it was awesome. Yeah, because it really changed here and there, and we were down there for months.
Yeah, it's crazy how long those contracts can run too.
Made so much money.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's a cool. That was my first kind of endeavor into that space, which was unique. And so, I mean, yeah, my buddy who has a company down in South Florida, that they do majority of that work. They do that, and then they do some executive protection stuff. But like the contracts that they do run, they have enough people to be able to staff it too. That's the other hard thing is when the storm happens, how can we get as many people as possible to staff all these sites that
to commit to it,
show
up. Yeah. How long can you commit? Can you commit for a week? Because like right now, if somebody in 2020, you could call me up and be like, hey, we got a job for like 2-3 months. You can come back halfway through, but like that's how long the job's going to be, or we don't know how long the job's going to be. Right. It could go for however long. So now I'm like, nah, that doesn't work with my schedule. I got to go get my kids.
Yeah, I got to pick them up from daycare. I mean? Like,
it doesn't work with my sugar mama's schedule. Yeah. So like if she has a meeting or something that she has to do, I don't have to take a contract, which is good for me now, and that's only because of my VA rating now.
Yeah.
So like that makes my life, it just lifts more off your shoulders and gives you more time to focus on stuff that you actually want to do. Like with what you're doing and with what I'm doing with the veteran sphere.
Yeah.
You know, so it gives me so much more free time. But I loved that contract. That was the most fun I've had working, aside from like the small weekend long jobs. Like I've been able to meet Kevin Bacon at the Sundance Film Festival, and you ever watch Step Brothers?
Yeah.
The chick who's like, stay golden, pony boy, and slaps him on the ass. She was in a show with Kevin Bacon called I Love Dick, and his name's Richard, the character.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that title.
Dude, it was awesome because we got to meet so many different people. Who's that dude from Lethal Weapon? Not Mel Gibson.
I know.
I'm drawing a blank.
We need somebody to.
Oh, dude, we don't have we don't have a Jamie.
There's no resources, but we have phones.
Dude, we've gotten to meet so many people, and you have those little jobs that go for a couple days and then it's done. But I love doing stuff like that, and with where I am now financially, I can do that. Hey, babe, can I work a weekend job or be gone for a week? I'll move some stuff. Boom.
Right.
So that's why I like security contracting, and I tell so many vets
to look at it. Yeah,
dude,
consider
like,
it. Yeah.
No reason not to. You're definitely qualified tactically to do this stuff, and professionally, it's finding people that understand what professionalism is so hard.
Yeah.
Just having your phone out and getting these guys to understand, dude, like pretend Sergeant Major's walking around and he doesn't want to see a phone in your hands. Like that's how you need to think about this.
Discretion is a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the whole military background is, one, it's a great field for veterans to consider, especially when they first get out and there's a lot more variability. They can travel more, they can really explore more. But also understanding the baseline that veterans have is a great foundation, but not leaning on that as kind of the end all be all. Like, oh, I did my time in the military, now I'm qualified for everything. It's like, I mean, it gives you a great baseline. You have an awesome work ethic. Your attention to detail is probably stellar.
You can mold it from there.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you a really good baseline if you're willing to use it. And so for any veteran who's looking to get into it, there's some awesome schools out there. We offer some training that we do here in Colorado. We're trying to do some more online stuff. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with the EP source, is just trying to get some information out there as well. But I mean, I would say just do it, live the experience, It's worth it because, like you said, you'll get to rub shoulders with so many celebrities or just people you never thought entrepreneurs, political figures. Like you'll be in rooms that you never thought you'd be in and listen to conversations. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I know, right?
Like that's just something that I think is worth the experience. But it's a unique field.
It makes a huge difference having gone to a EP school compared to somebody that has not, as far as the professionalism and understanding how these clients are going to want you to act or react to certain things. Because, I mean, it really does vary. I've had clients that want me super involved with everything that's going on right there around them. And some clients that are like, why are you standing 5 feet near me?
Well,
like,
dude, low pro versus hard pointing is a huge thing too for different clients, in terms of sometimes if it's especially like a public figure that needs that guy in the look. Yeah, it's a black tie, that whole thing. Then that's like what needs to be provided, and maybe more the people mover type of person. But then there's also where it's like, hey, we want it to be more passive. We want you to blend in with the environment. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be at the beach. And you're like, all right, how do I carry kit in a swimsuit? Like now you're just, it's.
You're the one guy with a fanny pack.
Right, yeah. It's just like, okay, so now like, what am I doing for medical supplies? I can only fit. So it's really funny too, the variety in terms of like the types of stuff you'll get into with that. And again, back to like discretion and as a veteran understanding like, yeah, it's a lot of things are going to change. Just learn to adapt, but you have a great baseline to jump into it.
Oh yeah. And you don't even have to go to the school. Just so everybody knows that you don't have to go to these schools. It just helps so much to get you prepared for this kind of career or however you want to look at it. It's just a good jumping off point, and it really gives you an amazing baseline on top of your military baseline that you already have.
Yeah.
So like if you meet the right company and you get the right people that do stuff in house, they're not just telling you what you want to hear because you're paying for a school, or you could pay for a school and they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear on top of whatever their SOP is for that class or school. So it really varies, and you don't have to go the same route that everybody goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could fall into a job.
That a lot of times, and that's the thing too, is if you're good at what you do and you're paying attention to detail, as just standing a post for somewhere as an armed guard or something, you'll get noticed a lot of times where the company has something come up, and now you'll at least dip your toe in the water. And the biggest piece of advice I'd actually say for veterans looking to get into the space is just don't be complacent. You might go work around the world's most crazy, influential, wealthy Hollywood type figures, and then next week you got to be
security hoodie,
right?
Polo.
Yeah, it could just be completely different. And so I've had that happen where you go from working a job that's this, and some people that transition, they
can't do it.
They can't handle it. They're like, I'm too good for this. And it's like,
yes,
it's
especially with ex cops or just presidential level military guys that were guarding the president or vice. You know what I mean? Like these big names. Then you're like, okay, can you do this now? Where the client might bitch and yell at you and tell you you're stupid or whatever, and you have to be able to go, Roger that.
Yeah, and I mean,
some people can't do that.
It really is such a interesting skill set that it's hard to teach that specifically. I can teach a lot of
ego to the side.
Yeah, I can teach soft skills, hard skills. We can go down any rabbit hole there, but like just the persona that of a person who stays humble and conscious of their situation is something that I feel very grateful to have worked with some awesome people and still get to work with people who are like that. But that's the same person when you're on a high profile job. They're not going to miss the small details.
Yes.
They're going to see what needs to be done and do it. They're going to be looking for work the whole time. So if somebody misses something, they're going to pick it up and make everybody look good. And that's the type of people that I absolutely want to work on the good contracts with.
Sorry about that. Had a little mix up.
No worries.
But no, I complete. And not only that, trying to get guys to understand what customer service is, coming from the military where it's shit, all the slurs you could think of, not slurs, but like curse words, stuff like that. Trying to get guys to understand, hey, you can't just fuckity fuck with a client sitting right there.
Well, and the client's associates, now that's reflection on the client. So now you're a part of that. Their kids, their family members, like it's a whole... That soft skill is something that's super important. And when we look to hire or implement people into teams, like that's a huge one, is how do they, what do they bring to the table? And also, are they going to be coachable? Are they going to be coachable? Are they going to be able to handle that, that transition, being able to just be in different rooms at different times and, not be too high, not be too low.
Yeah, right. Have you gotten to do any of the protests that have happened?
No, I haven't done any protests. I've been with clients adjacent to protests. So like I wasn't working a protest, but something has happened. And so it's like, we got to move the client. We need to, do stuff. So, I've been in situations like that, but never specifically like there to work a protest. But I'm sure it sounds like you've been doing those. I've heard those.
They're fun. That's what I was going to say was not to be like a story hog or anything, but what I was going to say was get ready for it with the election now. I think it's going to kick, because that's what really kicked off around 2019, 2020 was protests. It got nuts.
Now, are you doing like control for local like businesses around that area, or is it more just like for the city is saying, hey, try and keep this, help with the police department?
No,
like,
not with the city, not so in any way, and especially not in Denver anymore. When I was doing it in protest-wise in Denver, it was more escorting.
Oh, okay.
Taking in people with MSNBC or CNN.
Okay, gotcha. So like that makes sense.
And every now and then you get a business that's like, we have 5 locations in Denver. We need somebody to give us updates of where the protests are so that we know if we need to get our employees out of the building. If you know what I mean? Because people were acting crazy then, especially if you seem like a company that might be pro-Trump or pro-whatever, pro-conservative. You don't want your city burning down. Like it was nuts. We were up at the George Floyd protests with those news agencies, and it was nuts.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
Yeah,
but
it's just
nuts.
It's lively, that's for sure. Now I've heard those. I have a lot of friends who've done a lot of those all over the U.S. and
I would imagine
they said the same thing. They're like, it's just wild. Like being with the news crews, sometimes the crews are good, sometimes they're hard to work with, but like the environment is always just
and you'll
nuts.
hear what's nuts is when you see some crazy shit happen and you're like, you got that? And they're like, yeah, we got it. And then you're waiting for it to pop up on the news.
Yeah, you're like,
and then you're hitting up like, hey, when are you guys going to put, oh, the producer said that they don't
didn't make
wanna,
the cut.
Yeah, they're not going to show that. I'm like, they tried killing us. Or
Yeah,
they tried beating the crap out of us. You know what I mean? And it's like, why wouldn't you show that?
Yeah.
And that's when the wheels start really turning and stuff starts clicking that these news agencies are going to put out what their bosses are telling them to put out. When I was at the Breonna Taylor one, when people would start to fight or argue with any of the protesters that were there that were in charge of the protests, there's no sense of leadership at these protests. There's no.
It's just like
who's the
crowd
loudest, who can be the loudest, who has a megaphone, who can be the meanest, and push, like scream and yell at somebody until it's like, is this person going to hit me kind of thing? Or is this person going to hit me with something or cement or like a coffee cup full of cement? Like I would wear those hats that have the hard piece on the inside because it's
just
like,
in case. Yeah.
Dude, you could be standing next to a news agency person looking like you're ex-military or a cop or whatever. They will assault you or spit in your face or throw piss at you. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
And they'll say the most outrageous shit, and no one will do anything. There could be a cop standing right there, and they'll be like, well, you came to the protests. What do you think was going to happen?
Right.
I don't blame them, but it's like, you see all that stuff in person. You see stuff set on fire. Targets, police stations, all that set on fire, and no one's held accountable. Every now and then someone will get held accountable, but man, how do they afford this lawyer that's a George Soros appointed lawyer or AG or like just shit like that?
It's just, it's crazy.
And then you come back home and you're talking to your friends or family about politics or something, and you're like, no, that's not true.
You're like,
because I was there and I saw it, and like all they're hearing is what people on TV are telling them, and they're not telling them the whole truth. So that's one thing I love about the security world is you get to really see the behind the scenes stuff because everyone that you're working with is fake, and they'll make it's a good environment in the moment because everyone's being fake. It's fake nice. And they think that you're on their team because you're there helping them. And it's like, I'm only here because you're paying me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like that is a cool thing about the security world, like just being on the front lines of things that are happening, like protests and whatnot. Like you just have a firsthand account of just things that are happening. And I just think that's fascinating, you know, just from a curiosity standpoint too, like, you know, what actually happened. And then when you corroborate what you see, you're like, oh, I was, you know, it's just crazy.
They didn't show that one part over there.
Yeah,
it's like,
just nuts. So.
But the reason I brought that up wasn't for the politics side of it, but was more for, I think it's going to kick up security-wise contracts in the next couple months. No matter who they pick, I think it's going to be, if it's Kamala, there's going to be more wars and stuff. And there might be some like Trump supporting protesters. I don't think they'll burn anything down or anything crazy like that. But they just passed a bill in the United States making it to where federal agents, whether they're Homeland Security or whatever, law enforcement, can shoot protesters. I
heard something about that. That's wild. I definitely think
in America.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, security is definitely a growing industry, unfortunately. I mean, unfortunately for them, but I mean, you know,
for us,
great for people working. But
if you know what you're doing, you should.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's, you know, with some of the stuff that I'm working on with like the EP source is like just trying to put out information even for, you know, the professional protector, but also the family man who's just, you know, or the single mother who's like just considering access control for her own house and how to build a security plan for what her life looks like and managing that. And I think that is something that is awesome to like see, well, as I've had conversations and as it, you know, continues to grow, just like people having that light switch moment, like, oh, that's a great idea. This would help for my security.
thought about that.
And it's just, even just the paying attention to things is a huge start. And so, especially being election time frame, uncertainty to come, like the principles can help everybody who's hiring, doing the work, or also just wants to have a protector mindset. So
having food and water in your house that can at least last you a month is, to me,
huge.
And you, is like, duh, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But to some people, even other security guys that I've met, oh, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. You know,
right.
It's like, bro.
Well, COVID was the first real test of that for a lot of people.
Yes.
Where it was like, okay,
Toilet paper.
huge one, huge right off the bat. Water, not so much, but definitely like just shortages and things that they typically wouldn't even have considered. And I think that was a good, people understand that at least. If you're having a conversation about security, people will understand how that felt. And then they'll say, you know what? Okay, maybe I should listen to some of these principles.
Hey,
and,
yeah.
So.
Dude, I got boxes of empty sandbags just so that I can fill them up and place them around the entrances and the garage door and like,
in case you need a parapet
good luck,
anywhere.
Homeland Security. Good luck, ATF. Like, you're not getting my dog. I'm prepared in the sense that like I'm a nut. I love having access to firearms and being able to protect my family, whether that's concealed carrying. Like I know I've molded my wife into thinking of things in a completely different mindset, like you were talking about. Like it's such a night and day difference. She's, oh well, I never thought about that till we got together. You know what I mean? And it's I love giving people those tools. Think about maybe keeping a firearm in your house, locked up in a safe, whatever. But like, think about that. What if somebody breaks into your house? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna ask them nicely to leave? Some of the people, just thinking of all the people that have come here illegally, that are in Denver, that are in Colorado, Aurora, all these other places, they've had enough of it and fed up with it enough that they're pushing them out. Where do you think they're going to go? Do you think they're going to go to Colorado Springs where there's a military base and the chances of soldiers being armed in their homes? Or do you think they're going to go up north in northern Colorado? Like, what do you think is going to happen? And some of the videos you see now, like, these guys aren't idiots. They're not crackheads or meth heads that us Americans are used to. These are guys that might be tactically trained, that are not stupid. They have learned how to take advantage of tourists in whatever country that they're coming from. So when they're coming here, they've put disguised cameras in bushes to watch people's houses so that they know their schedules. And like, just being aware of stuff like that. If you're some old lady that used to own a company and you sold it or you own a couple laundromats, be aware of your surroundings. Like, because some of these guys are prepared.
Yeah, I would definitely say like security as a whole is a majority preemptive, and if you're doing it correctly, it's proactive rather than reactive. And then you train heavily for the reactive component because it's paramount that you're able to have these hard skills. But the soft skills are arguably more important to lead up to that, because if you are observing your environment and establishing a baseline, then you know what to look for that looks like it's out of line. Now that bush looks like it's been messed with, something's off. Okay, from there, now stepping back from that, okay, well, now if that bush has been messed with, maybe what else has been messed with? Now you're actively looking for other indicators that could be a problem. And then also just day to day, like there's so many inputs that we get from our environment around us in terms of, driving to the store, the person who cuts you off in traffic, the election going on today, the news, the media. There's so much going on that your brain is taking in, and you're data dumping a lot of it, but you're retaining more than you think in terms of what you're processing. And it's just listening to that. It's just letting your body hear that, so that way you're better prepared. So it's not as big of a surprise when, the car down the street gets stolen, somebody's been watching it for the past 2 weeks. They've noticed that the expiration date on the tags has been that way and they haven't moved it in 2 months.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much the point, is just those details matter a lot. And there's tactical ways to go about that, so you build good baselines and understand what to look for. But that in preparation will a lot of times keep you from having to even do the hard skills portion. But
yeah. Are you an easy target or are you
hard
a hard target?
Yeah.
Just locking your vehicles makes a difference. Taking bags, backpacks, stuff like that, off of your seat and stuffing it under, putting it in the trunk, making it to where the guy flashing his flashlight in your car looks in, doesn't see anything worth breaking the window for.
Yeah.
You know, that makes a difference in whether or not you'll get your stuff stolen.
Absolutely.
The one night. This is a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's newer. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
We have had so many drug addicts coming up from Fort Collins that steal vehicles, come down here, break into vehicles, work trucks. They broke into my truck. Nice truck, but usually I don't keep anything on the seats. The one night I kept my backpack on the back seat. You can see on my camera, he's looking through all the windows and he sees it and he busts the window, takes the bag and dips out.
Yeah.
And it had my old hard drive that had all my deployment photos, had my movies. Dude, I was pissed. New laptop I just bought.
Yeah.
Drove me nuts. And since then, and that's because I parked my truck on the side of the road, not my driveway, because we had just had someone over or something, and I'm like, nah,
I'll just leave it there.
It's locked. You know, so now I don't know.
Extra cautious.
Yeah, dude, I got cameras all over the place. I got cameras in the house. I got lights outside the house that are solar. Like, I do not play around, especially now because of that. But it's making yourself an easy or a hard target that a lot of people don't. It doesn't click in their head, and it's good that companies like that are doing what you're doing are out there to kind of give people that option of should I learn some of this stuff? Should I make my family safer? And it doesn't take you just having a firearm. You don't have to own a firearm. It's just a right.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
You know, and having it makes it a lot easier to say, if you come in closer, it's not going to go well. But you could do the same thing with bear mace.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also not to be confused with as an end all be all too. You know, just because you're proficient with a firearm doesn't mean you should be neglecting the, detecting and deterring portion of your home defense strategy, right? Like, these are things that have the tools in the tool belt and know when to use them. That way you can effectively build a great plan for the highest likelihood of success.
Think of it, if you're a criminal, put your mind in there, or put yourself in their shoes. How, if you were going to try and steal something, if you were going to try and break into your house and take stuff,
play that game,
your cars,
what would you
do it? And what would keep you from doing it? Lights, locked doors, dumb stuff.
If you're picking, down a street of houses, the house that looks maintained and well lit, that probably has security cameras, is a lot harder of a target than the one that is overgrown, doesn't look like they might not even be home, there's no lights. I mean,
cars aren't there.
Right. There's a lot of things like that are very subtle, but they go a long way in terms of just deterring, So
I love it. That's my big thing, and I've definitely molded my wife into being way more like I would feel confident putting her not on an EP job, but like a job where she is security consultant, where she would tell them, well, why haven't you thought of this?
Right.
Because I've ingrained that stuff. You brought your firearm, right? Like, you're concealed carrying. Okay, cool. You're going on a walk.
Yeah.
You have your gun in the bag or something, or in the stroller. Like, be aware of your surroundings, and I don't know if it's because of my upbringing in like horrible neighborhoods and just being around some of the people I was growing up that have molded me into thinking about those things. And because the day you get knocked out of nowhere for no reason, because you're talking to somebody and they knock you out because you're white, or they break into your house because of whatever reason, like, you will start paying
attention to, I don't want to get knocked out again.
you can tell who's never been punched in the face before, most of the time. Like, I'd say 80% of the time you can tell who hasn't been punched in the face before, because they got a big mouth and they're getting up in the dude's face that has cauliflower ears.
Yeah, the people who are so, I don't know, so inviting of violence have never experienced it. That's definitely, you see that a lot until they experience it, and then they go, you know what? Maybe I don't know how well trained they are. I don't know. Yeah, they're more likely to be like, you know what? This is not my fight. So, yeah,
it's nuts. I'm genuinely curious to see where this country's going to go in the next couple months, and like where we're going to be in January or Christmas. Like, Dude, I think January is going to be the craziest, especially for security, just because that's when they're going to certify the election.
I think that should definitely be an interesting time. Man, yeah, not a bad time to get into protection for those who are, looking to find a lot of contracts, because as contracts go too, which is kind of a good thing for those out there who are considering it, especially veterans, is times like this, there's a lot of contracts where they'll make exceptions of, you just got out of the military, we need people who are good. You might not have the experience we're looking for, but you can get some on this job. And so I would say for those looking out there, this is a good time to look for those contracts, get on there, get some experience, make some connections, and then grow from there, because yeah, like I said, it's a time of unknowns, and that's when security ramps up for all types of organizations.
No,
so
I completely agree. It definitely varies. The big thing with these protest jobs, contracts that are popping up, be very aware of where you're going and where you're allowed to be. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
jurisdiction. Where do you have access to be in terms of the property? What are your rights in terms of, even detaining somebody if that's the case, evacuating who you're with, where are you going? I can't stress that enough, is just understand all of the limitations of what you're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
There's just in January 6th, there was a security guy that was escorting a news agency, and he didn't go in the Capitol or anything, but he was there with the news people. And because he was there, even though it was in a security, not atmosphere, what's the word I'm looking for? He was there as a security element.
Capacity, maybe?
Capacity,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
word I was looking for. He was there in a security capacity. They still, I don't know if they finally charged him or not, but they tried.
Oh, he got in trouble
him
for being adjacent to it. Wow.
Yeah, so like just that's what makes me think about it, especially with the protests kicking up. You never know what they're going to try and do.
Yeah, no, definitely try your hardest to.
Being there as security isn't going to save you.
Well, also if you know the limitations, then you'll be able to call for every action. I always talk about this with individuals going into different jobs, is just make sure you have a call for action in terms of what, if any event takes place, one, you're going to have to report on it just to make sure you cover, all your bases. But then when you're asked on it, what are you doing here? Oh, well, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I can do. Here's my capacities. And not to say you have to share everything immediately, but it's something that really helps understand and not put yourself in situations like that as best as possible. I don't know. I was hired here, so it must be fine.
And be prepared for it, to answer if
right.
If it's like law enforcement or something like that. It really does vary. But security world is definitely it's booming, but you can tell the difference between the shitbags and the guys that actually know what they're talking about and dealing and that have received some type of training.
Yeah.
You got tactical Timmy that shows up with a drop leg holster and airsoft vest, and he's like, "I'm here. I'm your security," and it's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Go home, change, or I'm gonna call somebody else.
Yeah,
get out here.
It's staffing is always interesting, and
it's like herding kittens.
Yeah, it can be, and I'd say the toughest part is you need people a lot of times for certain details, jobs, contracts, but sometimes you're like, well, we just can't take these contracts if I can't uphold a certain standard or uphold a certain proficiency, especially in the EP world, in terms of, if we're supporting a certain client, what's their industry background, adversaries, who's going to fit in with their environment, their family, their executive team of assistants and drivers and pilots or whoever. Like, how are our individuals going to maintain our level of professionalism and step in that environment and deliver that? Because there's definitely different arenas for security, the world in whole, but definitely the people who show up that are expected to stand post, the people who are trying to push themselves to get to that next level, and then those who are just always trying to learn, always trying to push themselves. And there's some floating through all of those, but definitely in the EP world, it's interesting how that works.
I remember you saying something about CQB stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
What you said you guys have a facility that you're going to.
Yeah, so we run here in Longmont, so fourringstactical.com, you can check it out. But once every month we do a CQB workshop session. So the premise is all different types of levels of CQB ability can show up. We've had everybody from, real hitter type show up to security contractors show up to civilians show up, and then, varying degrees of competency, let's say. From there, it's a place to lab it out and test it out. So we do have simunition equipment, so we're able to run that. The facility is a law enforcement facility in Longmont, so we rent that out from the city of Loveland's police department. We have a contract with them.
Nice.
And so, yeah, we run, we interchange every other month. So 1 month will be the simunition, and then the next month will be more dry run. We have some airsoft stuff for scenario-based stuff to just kind of incite a little bit of pressure. But we also custom built some face masks that have eye protection, but they're also like sparring equipment. So that way we can do hands-on. We can show how intense a situation can get, and really just good training. I mean, that's one of the fundamental principles of Four Rings Tactical, was just to give the founding group and those associated the ability to train more and put us in lab environments where we can, all right, here's what we've seen. Here's what we have been adjacent to or know could happen. How do we train for this? How do we prepare for these situations? And so the CQB thing is just one of those where it's not like we're saying we are the secret squirrel expert on everything CQB. Right. You know, I'm not going to come in here. If you're coming from a certain background, it's okay. Let me learn from you. Here's what we do. Here's what's worked. Here's what hasn't worked. And then different settings, different themes will run. So some will be like a home defense one. Some will be if you're a security, if we get a big cohort of individuals working in the security world, all right, what type of sites do you work? What's the most likely situation? Okay, you're working in an active shooter situation. We also do active shooter consultation with companies around the Denver area. So we'll go in, we'll assess their facility, we'll do a couple hour period of instruction, and then show them physical devices as well for just access control stuff. Right. So we do that as well, but we bring that into this lab environment of CQB, and in close quarters battle for those who may not have are familiar with the term, but just military operations in urban terrain is where it comes from a military background. But it's just, if you're in a dynamic environment, how are you going to employ a firearm? How are you going to handle yourself? How are you going to enter that facility? And then also, what are your assets? Are you by yourself? Do you have a team? Do you have multiple people? And so we do our best to just create real life training environment and just try and get everybody a little bit better than they were when they got there. That's really the goal.
I love watching news agencies that or news anchors that go through training like that, like police training specifically. Yeah, they'll go in with they'll put everything on, the vest, the belt, all that, and then they'll show up to a call, and then someone will start screaming and yelling. And I can't remember the name of the news agency, but the guy was doing their training, and the guy starts yelling and runs towards him and stops, and the guy pulls his gun out and shoots him. Yeah. And the guy running it goes, "Stop. Okay, so
why'd you do that?"
He's dead. You're probably going to jail. This was not a good shoot.
Yeah.
But giving people that example in person, you're in that situation. I think everybody should at least watch that kind of stuff, so that they can get an idea that it's not the movies. It's not what everybody thinks it's going to be so easy, that every decision is cut and dry and stuff like that. So it's not as cut and dry as people think it is. What are you going to do if you shoot someone and they keep coming at you? Because most people are going to miss 7 out of 9 shots within a 20-something foot distance if you're not training every month at least. It's crazy statistically. I can't remember the specific one, but it's like 7 out of 9 shots most people, whenever they're
under stress,
concealed carry, under stress, and let's say you hit them and they still don't go down. What do you do then? He's gonna, if it's me on meth, I'm going to get you.
Yeah. Now you're going hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it's funny too.
Now I took your gun.
Yeah. Well, there's also a lot of training companies out there who say, take this course and it's the end all be all. This is the way it is. And realistically, you should be maybe competitively shooting, taking a jiu-jitsu or a combatives. You should be doing a lot of these things in some regular fashion, even if it's, whatever capacity you can. It will dramatically improve your outcome in a violent situation. And so I think that's a big thing too. And I know a lot of companies, they come out and they have their own thing, and this is what worked for us and this is how it works. And it's okay, but can anybody actually shoot? Can anybody hit targets? Okay. That's probably a better place to start. So in our CQB workshop too, we don't focus on marksmanship. Go take a different course. That's a different thing. This is putting you in an environment where the biggest thing is you're going to be under stress. You're going to be in a situation that's different, and you're going to learn how you react under stress. And if you can come out of this better than you were, that's the goal. And so I think that's huge. And so, yeah, we enjoy doing it. We do other courses. We work with a couple gun ranges in the Denver area as well. So we do like verbal de-escalation classes. We do knife fighting, basic knife fighting classes, emergency medicine type stuff. So kind of that, just if you're in an environment where there's a medical emergency before professionals can show up, what can you do? Like tourniquets and just various things like that. That's
All my vehicles I got like 5 tourniquets in both cars. Like,
Yeah.
I don't play around when it comes to that.
Yeah.
It's my kids are very prepared in that sense because I'll throw a tourniquet at them and be like, I shot your brother in the leg. What are you going to do?
Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, they just start looking around.
Yeah. But, I mean, it really does make a difference being prepared for it, even if you're not doing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the time to go do a class like that makes such a difference in preparing you for situations that I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying, depending on who's going to win the election, it's really going to vary what's going to happen, what's going to be allowed to happen in each different state. Like, it's, who knows? Have you, not to take us in a completely different direction, but is there anything you have seen out in Colorado as far as working with veterans and stuff like that you think should shine more light on, or do you think like foundations or classes like we were talking about with transitioning from getting out of the military and being a little bit more prepared?
Yeah.
Do you think have you used your GI Bill yet or anything?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned earlier, I did college for a bit, so I used a bit of my GI Bill, and then when I started doing the security contracting stuff with time and also just financially, it didn't make as much sense for me to be doing both. Not to say I won't go back at some point to finish some type of schooling, but I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for veterans to get out, use the GI Bill. And this is coming from, I did not have a phenomenal high school experience in terms of my grades and everything. I got rejected from a state school when I first got out. Like, I'm a veteran with a GI Bill, and I got rejected from a state school. So I ended up going to a community college first, New York City. And it was like, you don't have to be the world's smartest person to go at least get into a college, take a few semesters, get paid to be there. You know, I think that's a huge thing. And for transitioning veterans, for me, it's just staying as connected as possible. And that's something that I was not amazing at when I first got out, and I'm getting back to being better at that. But connect with other veterans in your community. You know, stay in touch with those who got out that you served with. I think that connection piece is huge. My wife does a lot of studying in the meaning and purpose. She's almost a PhD in psychology, and the loss of or lack of meaning and purpose for a veteran when you transition out, I think is something that doesn't get talked enough about in terms of how that impacts you on all levels. And, you know, while you might not have meaning and purpose from a job career perspective when you first get out as you're transitioning, at least, you know, having the will to live or the reason to be connected with your buddies, you know, that alone gives like this, I think it's something that it gets overlooked.
Trying to
I
find
think
that brotherhood is so much harder. Like the same kind of vibes you had when you were in the military. Trying to find that outside of the military is such a pain in the ass, because I thought I was gonna. COVID kind of destroyed the security world at the end of 2020, and in 2021 I was like, oh well, most of the people I worked with in the security world were law enforcement. I'll go into law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I did that. I used Volk Rehab because I had already used all my GI Bill. And Volk Rehab, which, by the way, before you use all of your GI Bill, make sure before it runs out, you go talk to somebody with vocational rehab because it's extra school. And if you're using that and you still have GI Bill left, they'll pay you. They'll pay for the class. They'll pay you a monthly stipend, but it'll be more of a monthly stipend if you still have some GI Bill left while you're using vocational rehab. So
that's cool. Yeah, there's so many programs too that I think the TRS transition program really they try and cram down as much as possible. But there's also other phenomenal organizations doing good work out there for veterans that, like with Cody, our mutual friend.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he got me into doing stuff with the Semper Fi Fund. He does a lot of stuff with them, but that really, even coming in as a guest and doing something with that, had such a profound impact on just realizing, oh man, I haven't worked on these things, or I haven't thought about different things that, come from service or whatever, but it gives you a chance to reflect and say, oh yeah, I should really be, not downplaying things, not saying,
imposter syndrome.
Right. I think that's a huge one, man. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of organizations like that doing great stuff, and it's just staying connected helps with finding those things. It helps with you and your mental health too, in terms of staying connected with people and hearing about new experiences and trying new things, and know that there is resources out there. And yeah,
there's a lot of benefits that a lot of vets don't know about. I don't know if you have DV plates or anything on your vehicle.
Yeah. So I have a rating, and I'm still working on finishing some other stuff with ratings, but I think that's something. It took me a long time to want to go do that, or to say, like, it finally came down to somebody basically saying, hey, this is, you're withholding this from your family, like, by not submitting these claims and stuff. And so that was, a big
getting DV plate. A lot of people don't know about, and each state is different. Like, Colorado is way better on veterans than Iowa. Iowa has a lot of good stuff for vets, but here in Colorado, I think if you're over 50% through the VA, then you can apply for DV plates.
Yes.
And DV plates, just so everybody knows, and has context to what we're talking about, disabled veteran license plates make it to where you can have one per vehicle. Like, in the household, I can only have it on one of my vehicles. I can get DV plates on my other vehicle, but only one of them
tax exemption.
Is a tax exemption. It makes it to where I don't have to pay my registration and taxes for that one vehicle. So pick the most expensive vehicle.
How do you feel about the fact that this is the one thing when I first went through that process, I was like, isn't this kind of a display of public information in terms of targeting and stuff? Like, it says disabled veteran on the plate, like big DV. That's one thing that...
It's like having 2A sticker on the back of your
window.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was like, I don't know. I've asked at the DMV, I'm like, dude, is there an option to like have a, nondescript DV plate? And they're like, no, it has to be this one. So I think there's definitely go do it, because the benefits are around getting into national parks or state parks, things like that are awesome.
Soft target, easy target though.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it was just something that I was just, I don't know. It was something that I thought about, where I was like, I wonder if they...
It helps me get a ticket sometimes.
Yeah. There's other benefits there too. Yeah, I think, it's definitely comes with the give and take. Definitely more good there than
Well, I mean, the tax exemption side of stuff definitely is what perked my ears up. And on top of that, it's what I was saying was, with your DV plates, you can apply for them if you're over a certain percentage, depending on the state. Look it up. But, I mean, it's such a lift off your shoulders, not having to fork up $1,500 a year just on taxes and registration for one of your vehicles.
Yeah, it's a lot out here.
And not just that, there's fishing licenses, lifetime ones you can get as a disabled veteran. I don't even think, I think as long as you're at like 10% or higher or whatever, there's a bunch of, damn, that one camera's pissed me off. But there's a bunch of different benefits that a lot of vets don't know about. The property taxes in Colorado, if you're over 100%, or if you're 100% or over, you after like I got my 100% last August, but I couldn't use the no property tax for that year. I had to wait, and I'll be able to use it at the end of this year for taxes. But in other states, like it just really depends on what state you're in, which is why you should vote and make sure whatever the state that you're in is trying to pass, it's not something that's going to screw you over as a veteran. Yeah. Because, I mean, we are and I've said this a million times, and I said this in my last video, we are such a small percentage of the United States, civilian-wise. Veterans make up less than 1% of veterans. I'll repeat that. Less than 1% of Americans join the armed forces. And after they join the armed forces and they leave, it's less than 7% of Americans are military veterans. That's a very small percentage. Yeah. I mean, it's still a lot of people, but it's like we should be focusing on veterans because they have, even if you didn't deploy, even if you didn't get a Purple Heart or get like,
Yeah.
I wasn't Rambo. I wasn't doing anything crazy while I was in, but I still signed my name on the dotted line and served my country. We should be taken care of. Me personally, I don't think vets should be paying any taxes. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that's ever going to happen. But,
Yeah, no, seriously.
we should definitely be in our own category, and there should be a lot more benefits for veterans to help us succeed, help us create businesses, help us, that we have lived a life that is a lot different than a lot of people. No matter what spectrum you are a part of in the military, it doesn't matter. And making sure that people know that is hard, but that's the whole reason I'm doing stuff like this, so that I can let people know, there's benefits out there for you. If you want to go to school, if you want to get a job, there's programs up at your local, look up your local DVOP, Disabled Veteran Outreach Program. And there's a DVOP officer that will help you get a job. Like, that is his job, to help disabled vets and just vets in general find work, real good work, long-term work, not just like contracting stuff. But for some people, contracting makes it easier for them to go through life. So doing stuff like this and talking to people like you that are employing veterans, I think it's amazing, and I hope we can do more of that.
Yeah.
It's just such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I appreciate you doing stuff like this too, just to even get the word out there for people to understand there is resources out there, and there are a lot more resources than people think. It's just the information that has to get across. And I think the other big thing too is it can be a superpower, not a crutch. It can be something that, because you have access to all these things, you can use it to then further your career. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to be this, so sorry is me, and I'm going to take advantage of these, and that means that it disqualifies me from pushing myself because of, whatever your situation is. There's veterans out there doing awesome stuff, and staying connected and getting connected with those individuals, those organizations, leveraging the resources, we can continue to, as a veteran community, I think, be a positive impact on society, instead of the unfortunate reality that we have now, which is a lot of suicide, a lot of mental health issues, a lot of transition issues coming into the world in general of regular civilian life. So yeah, I think it's a big thing that doesn't get mentioned enough, and there is a lot of resources out there that just have to make the connection.
Are there any shout outs or any groups, foundations, anything like that you can think of before we?
Yeah, I would say the Semper Fi Fund. I've had nothing but amazing interactions with them. I think that they do really quality work, and the environment they facilitate, I think, just allows for so much growth and healing for veterans. Other organizations, I mean, go to the VA. Like, at least do your due diligence to get some rating. It's not the easiest, simplest process, but do what you can. Still, doing what I can there. But I think that there is, depending on where you live, some VAs are better than others for sure.
Oh yeah, state by state, it's a huge difference.
And so I think use those resources to start, but stay connected. I mean, above all else, there's some other phenomenal organizations that I'm definitely leaving out here. There's a ton, but use your community to help connect with more. When you hear about a good opportunity, there's no need to gatekeep. These organizations are poised to help as many veterans as they can, and they want to. So, share that good word, stay connected. And yeah, those are the couple organizations that I would just say to start. And I'm still learning. Hopefully I have more to share in the future, but yeah,
dude, we're going to be definitely going to do this again, and definitely chat offline more. There's, like you're saying, just go to the VA. Figure out what benefits are out there for you. The hardest, I've said this a million times, the hardest veterans I've had a hard time getting to go to the VA have been Marines. Just because, not that it's an ego thing, but it's like I don't want to take away from such and such who's like lost his legs or got blown up or whatever. Yeah. I can completely get that. It's kind of like ammo each fiscal year. The government's going to allocate a certain amount of money to your local VA, and if enough people aren't going to that VA to figure out what benefits, classes, stuff like that, they're going to be like, well, you didn't use all the money, so we're just going to give you what you used. next time.
It's government.
And it's just, it's government. It's just like with the ammo. If you, that's why we throw them in burn pits and
Whatever.
shoot it.
Whatever you can do to,
They'll find a way to save more money and spend it on other stuff that we might not all agree on should be spent on. So making sure that money is allocated to your local VA is as easy as going to the VA to find out what benefits are there for you. Find out if you can get a fishing license for a lifetime. Like, you can't beat that.
No,
so,
and tell your buddies, too. I think that's huge. Convince them, because...
Even if they had a bad go at it the first time.
Yeah, it definitely took people to say, like, hey, you should do this enough times to where you finally get over the hurdle and go. And so I think... Yeah,
getting a rating is such a pain in the butt, and talking to people that have done it and have like myself, I've done it. I've jumped through all the hoops. I understand how all this works and the process, and I don't like the gatekeeping stuff. I completely agree.
Yeah,
we should all be going out of our way to help each other because we're such a small community.
Yeah,
that's all we should be doing. Is hey. They literally have a checklist that they go off of. If you're going in for your lower back, they're literally going to put a protractor on your hip and see how far you can bend forward, how far you can bend back, and side to side and stuff like that. Understanding that and stopping when you feel pain, or go work out before you go to this appointment, so that you're not going there on your best day. You want the VA to understand what your worst day is. So try and go in there on your worst day. I'm not saying hurt yourself or anything, but go
an honest assessment that is like,
go grout some tiles an hour before you go, so that when you go in there, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, this is right.
And that way they see you on your worst day. They don't see you after you took a couple pain meds that the VA prescribed you.
Yeah.
You don't go there after, you haven't been doing anything for a week. And
when it's easier to say I'm fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's the biggest hurdle I've found with getting veterans to go and making sure they understand. Don't downplay what you're going through, because that's their job. That's the CMP examiner's job.
Right.
Is to downplay. Oh, well, here's some ibuprofen. Drink water.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so making sure that vets understand that and getting us all communicating is my main goal. And hopefully with this, we can keep doing that. And I genuinely appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me so much. I think your setup here is awesome, and I've enjoyed the conversation. So I
love it.
Fantastic.
Hopefully the security world's going to get an even bigger boom in a good way. Not not a atom bomb boom.
A
security world boom.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff for the industry would be good. So
thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.